Alright, I thought I'd kick this off by taking you guys to my favorite park, the Holden Arboretum. And we're going to walk up to Corning Lake and see a lot of beautiful things along the way. I'll try not to spoil the beauty of the moment too much by talking, but I might say a few things here and there. This is pretty cool. This is the GoPro Hero that I'm using. Smallest version they have. Set up using a head strap. And this is the way I walk almost every day. If not here, I go to other parks like Penitentiary Glen, which is nearby, and I'm sure I'll take you guys there later. But this is my go-to place. It's only about 10 minutes from my house. It's in Kirtland, Ohio. And this really does have to be one of the most beautiful arboretums, if not in the country, certainly in Ohio. And one of the cool things I like to do is come here in the evening when it's a little quieter and there's less people, and just enjoying the peace and quiet after what can sometimes be a stressful day due to work or whatever else is going on in the world. I guess this is sort of a test to see a number of things. First, how does the video come out? I have to get the angle right. Try not to move my head too much so that everyone doesn't get dizzy. And just walk at a steady pace and see if it comes out. Even though this is an action camera, I don't want there to be too much action. So yeah, I think the purpose of these videos is sort of twofold. One is just every day I'm out here seeing how beautiful everything is, and sometimes I wonder why there aren't more people out here. And normally I go by myself. Other people have things to do in this busy world, but for me sometimes the best thing to do is nothing. Even though it's not nothing, but by modern standards, it is sometimes seen that way. To me, the best way to sort of reset your mind or clear your mind every day is just to take a walk in nature, reminding yourself that this is where you come from. Not only this is where you come from, this is where you are. This is who we are. And sometimes we can get lost in this digital connected world where everyone is staring at a screen all day long or a large portion of the day, and maybe forget the simplicity of the natural world around us. And I think it's a way to bring us home to that. And it doesn't require a lot of thinking. I tend not to think too much when I'm walking. I'm thinking more than usual now because I'm talking. But a lot of times I'm just observing, paying attention to what's happening, what's not happening, hearing the birds, the rustle of the animals sometimes as they run under the bush as I walk by. Even just the sound of the wind blowing. So we're headed up to Corning Lake. It's sort of a big pond, but they're actually proud of calling it a lake here because it meets the requirement, supposedly, for whatever that is, the volume, cubic feet of water, or whatever it is. I heard on a tour once they were very proud of that fact. So yeah, Corning Lake. What I like about this particular walk is it's not too far from the parking lot, but once you get up here, you get to see the lake and all the Canadian geese at the moment that are around, or sometimes in the lake, flying above it, all the different birds, insects. This place really comes alive in the spring, and what I remember from last year and other years is every day it gets a little different. Every day you come, you see maybe a new flower bloom or another insect make its appearance. And yeah, it's pretty cool. So this is it. A little visit from security there. That's another nice thing about this place. I think you can feel pretty secure walking here. Not that there's anything to really feel insecure about, but they do have their own security. Over here to the right are some restrooms. And of course, I'm not really stopping to look at the lake. Walking. See if we can make it around the lake and back to the car. I'm sort of new to this social media stuff and taking videos and processing them and uploading them, which I guess is the opposite of what I'm talking about, but it's a necessary evil, I suppose. I guess we're doing a stress test of the GoPro. How far can you go, GoPro? Like I mentioned in the description for this channel, sometimes I probably will just record what I'm seeing silently, which is how I normally am when I'm experiencing it. But I think a dual purpose of all this, not necessarily a purpose, but something, is to just reflect on things. Sometimes this is when I'm listening to videos by Krishnamurti these days, who is a very important philosopher, teacher, religious leader. I hesitate to say that because he doesn't like to be a leader or seen as a leader or have followers, and if you were to look him up, you would find out more about him, and I'll talk a little bit about him, but this isn't so much about him. The main thing he talks about is actually inquiring on your own, figuring things out on your own, and looking into your mind, or the mind, we should say. Saying your mind is actually incorrect, because there is no you that owns the mind. You and the mind are the same. This is one of the things you observe if you look carefully. But it's something we don't often consider. Who are you? And I think a lot of, especially Indian spiritual traditions, have inquired into this question in different ways, but it's really not that hard. And it really shouldn't involve the use of knowledge, past knowledge, history, traditional religious beliefs. All give some perspective on all this, but it's better to observe on your own. Who are you? Observe yourself, your physical self, your mental self, and find out what the self is. And find out if you are different from your thoughts, or if you are your thoughts. What are thoughts? What is thinking? These are sort of all ideas I think we'll explore in this channel bit by bit. It's too much to do in one evening, but I think I spent a lot of time, maybe later in my life, exploring sort of different religious traditions. You know, being raised a Roman Catholic, I had a particular way of being taught to see the world, but it never quite felt right to me. And I think part of that is because it was just somebody's idea of how things are, or how things should be, even if that idea is beautiful, and there can be beautiful ideas. But a lot of times the idea is not the reality, and that is the issue. Ideas are just that, ideas. Ideas about things are not the same as those things. And this is where we get caught. The image or idea of a tree is not the tree. It's how the brain interprets the tree, abstracts the tree. And the problem with words and ideas is that it sort of stops the functioning of the brain. The brain, and maybe this is the detriment of language. And sometimes we think, well, has humanity taken a wrong turn at some point? And when you look around at the world today and see the chaos that's all around us, you pretty much have to answer that question as yes. At some point or another, humanity took a wrong turn, and it's a question worth investigating. Not analytically, we can't go back and see exactly what happened in the history of man, but we can take a look around us now and see the disorder in the world. And by seeing the disorder in the world, we might just bring about order. And this is a different way of looking at things. A lot of religious traditions want to impose a certain discipline or order upon you based on whatever they see as that order. And that order is constructed of the mind, which itself is disorderly. So a disorderly mind cannot construct an orderly set of rules to live by. And that's sort of the crux of the whole matter right there. And if you see that, then you abandon all ideas of religious tradition, not oppose them or reject them in any sort of reactionary way. You just sort of drop them as not being important. It's not whether this religious tradition is right, or this one is right, or believe in this and don't believe in that. You just sort of see it all as the same. It's a construct of the mind. No matter what tradition you're talking about, Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, the very fact that we have these divisions of religious thought is almost just proof that none of these are right. In the sense that if I'm a Buddhist, I'm not a Christian. If I'm a Christian, I'm not a Hindu. If I'm a Hindu, I'm not Islamic. And that division creates conflict. The very division of our thinking into different religious beliefs, different political beliefs, racial divisions. I mean, the world is in conflict right now because we divide ourselves up. We've taken what is one humanity and we've broken it apart into all these fractional pieces, and then these fractional pieces gain their identity through these divisions, which naturally sets up conflict. And it's almost obvious. I mean, if you have no division, you have no conflict. If, two different countries didn't create a boundary between them, then they wouldn't be fighting. And if two people saw themselves as part of the same whole of humanity, they wouldn't be fighting against each other. They wouldn't be selfish. And really, the self-centeredness is what leads to also a lot of our conflict in the personal world. People tend to act out of their self-interest, which is driven by the ego, which is just that self-interest. It's a collection of thoughts about who you are and why you're more important than the other person, and why you're more important than an animal, which is why a lot of people eat animals, because they're just okay with it, because they're like, well, I'm better than the animal. I'm somehow more important than the chicken, the cow, whatever it is that we're deciding to kill for our own satisfaction and to meet our own desires. And we don't often give a lot of thought to it, or the people that do rationalize it away and say, well, this is just the natural order of things, right? Animals eat other animals, and I'm in nature, and so I'll just behave that way. And that is a cop-out. That is the mind rationalizing something by saying it's okay for me to behave this way because that's just the way nature is. Well, how do we know that's the way nature is? That sounds like a conclusion that someone comes to. Maybe we are different. Maybe humanity and human beings have the ability to discern right and wrong in a way that maybe even other animals can't, because they're operating based off their instinct, their conditioned thinking, and human beings have the capacity to reason and, maybe more importantly, to break out of that conditioning. But I don't think many people do, and this is why most people do act according to their conditioning, the way they were brought up, taught it's okay to do this, it's okay to do that, don't do this, don't do that. And then by the time you become an adult or a young adult or whatever, you already have a pattern of behavior that you're really just emulating from whoever taught you that. Your parents, your family, your community, your religious conditioning. And it's kind of crazy when you think about that is literally what you have been subjected to your entire life, and you are your conditioning. And people raised in different cultures, observe the behavior. People behave differently from different cultures precisely because of that conditioning, through language, traditions. And when you see that, then you start to say, wow, so I'm conditioned too, but my conditioning is not better or worse than someone else's. But then you examine your own conditioning so that you understand that is why I act and behave in the way that I do, because of that conditioning. And just observing that, just acknowledging that, is a sort of awakening, mini awakening. There's nothing magical about intelligence, understanding, and not through an analytical process, but through pure observation, without judgment. That's not something we're used to. Can you observe your mind? Can you observe the disorder in your life without judging? Because judging is just another part of your mind. One thought judging another thought. Well, what gives that thought the authority to judge another thought? Instead of doing that, just observe how the mind works in all of its perfections and imperfections, so-called, and not try to say, I need to be better. This is another falsehood of our modern society, self-improvement. It's probably the worst thing, because in that there's an implication that somehow you are not who you should be now. Somehow you've judged yourself and decided that I need to be different. So one thought in your brain, or collection of thoughts, has come to some conclusion about how you should be, and then tries to control another part, which is really silly because there aren't two parts in your mind, but there is the appearance of that, the appearance of the me who somehow knows better and is judging this other part of the mind that it sees as less perfect, and tries to make change. And that immediately sets up conflict, as we were talking about before. This division of one part of the mind and another part naturally creates conflict, and that conflict is the source of disorder. So the very thing one is trying to end is going to be made even worse by setting yourself up in this way. So then people may say, all right, well, if there's no self-improvement, what is there? What is there is the truth, which one can observe impartially and without bias, and without the past, which is your conditioning, interfering with that observation. Pure observation, direct perception, if you want to call it that. And it's eye-opening. It's observation without opinion, without the past. Well, even understanding what is the past, what is time. When we think of time, there's time by the clock, there's time, sunset, sunrise, light, dark, the cycles of nature. That's sort of, the time by the clock, which exists and is real in that sense, but more importantly is psychological time. Do we understand how we perceive time? What is the past, present, and future from our understanding? Does the past exist, or is it just memories in our mind? And the future is simply the past projected into the mind again, the thoughts coming into play and saying, oh, I want to be this way, and one day I will be. One day I'll quit smoking. Okay, well, why not today? Because that one day and the future and hope is often simply a way to avoid the now. Because there really is only change in the present moment. There is no change in the future. If you say, I will be better one day, all you're saying is, I'm not going to do anything right now. And that means you're not doing anything at all. Because there is only now. And if you see that the past is now and the future is now, and that change only happens in the now, and there needs to be change. Change must happen, but it's not a gradual change. It's not a change established by setting up some ideal and striving towards it, or some concept of perfection. It is actually an ideal, not an ideal at all. It is, again, simply that observation and that recognition of what is time, and just seeing yourself in the present moment without anything else, without any authority, religious or otherwise, or your own authority. This is what we have to be very careful about too, because you may, as a rational person, discard all traditional religious beliefs, but then you create your own belief system, your own authority, and then you live by that authority. really living by any set of rules, any set of predetermined ideas of perfection, whether you create them or someone else creates them, is the problem. So just let it go. Start fresh. Don't recreate the problems of the world. Let them go and see what happens. And don't let them go by forcing yourself. Don't tell yourself that you have to do a certain thing, be a certain way. Just take it easy. Go for a walk in the woods. Go for a walk around Corning Lake. See what happens. Stop judging yourself. Just observe the world that's around you. Don't get lost in your own thoughts. The creation of your own mind, and thoughts are just a projection of our memories, which are just built up by our experience. Alright, so I think I didn't stay silent for very long, and I don't know, I guess that's enough for today. This is my car. Sign off now, because I probably already have a video that's too long. So that's an example of what's to come. I think we can explore some topics. I would enjoy hearing what people have to say in the comment section about this, about what I said, and just let me know what you think. Alright, bye.